But we begin in Iran.
We are in Iran. It looks like you are having a blast out there. This is a town, this is a city in Tehran, which is going through so much. It's a tense situation. The Iranians have voted in huge numbers, and now the world waits to find out who won the hard-fought presidential race in that volatile country. Our senior foreign correspondent, Jim Sciutto, is in Tehran, has been following the action. Good morning, Jim.
Bob, good morning. A real dramatic reversal overnight from the excitement in the days leading up to the election to real tension now. There are riot police in the streets, clashes between protesters and police, and one of the presidential candidates, Mehdi Karoubi, is under house arrest. The government shutting down any attempt to protest the official results showing Mahmoud Ahmedinejad the runaway winner. This morning in Iran, shock and confusion at an election result few here expected. In downtown Tehran, we were immediately surrounded by a crowd of people who unanimously disputed the official vote count.
All wrong, and the people knows that, but we cannot do anything.
All people knows that, but they can't do anything.
They can't change this.
They can't change this because of the fear of the society.
One sign of that fear, for the first time this week, many who criticized the government were too scared to show their faces.
We are sure.
You're sure it's a lie?
Yes.
You're sure that...
I cannot accept it.
Friday was a day of spectacular swings. Early on, supporters of moderate challenger Mir Hossein Mousavi were convinced they were headed for a big victory. But after polls closed, the government declared President Mahmoud Ahmedinejad the winner by a landslide. In a hastily arranged press conference, Mousavi alleged vast voter fraud and, in a bold move by the former prime minister, called the vote a sham. I am the definite winner, he said, by a wide margin. After an extraordinary campaign that saw massive street demonstrations and a vigorous national debate, the dispute is certain to undermine the legitimacy of the vote among many Iranians. Turnout was exceptional, as high as 80%, and the candidates offered two very different visions of Iran's future. Ahmadinejad, tough at home and tough against the U.S., Mousavi promising more social freedoms and more engagement with the West. But the election fight may not end with the vote count. The opposition is promising to take their challenge to the streets.
If they called you to come protest this, you would?
I would, yes.
The opposition says it has proof of vote fixing, ballot stuffing, as well as a shortage of ballots in opposition strongholds. And it's interesting that by the official results, Kate, Mousavi lost even his hometown, which has many Iranians, his supporters, certainly convinced that the fix is on.
That sounds unlikely. Jim Sciutto, thank you. And joining us for some perspective now, Robin Wright, author of 5 books, most recently Dreams and Shadows, The Future of the Middle East. She's currently a scholar with the Woodrow Wilson Policy Center. Good morning, Robin. Good to see you.
Good morning.
So let's take a look at those official results that Jim just mentioned. This is what the government is saying. Ahmadinejad with 65% roughly of the vote, Mousavi with just 32%. But those are the official results. What happens if Mousavi actually does somehow pull this out and become the leader of Iran? What does that mean for us?
Well, I think what we've seen in this election is one of the deepest fissures since the 1979 revolution. There was an outpouring in many ways to signal Iranians are interested in a different kind of future. And Mousavi, I think, would have more of an impact when it comes to domestic policy than in dealing with foreign policy, particularly the United States. But Mousavi set a different tone in terms of everything from political prisoners and women's rights to freedom of the press. And I think that's what people who voted for him were looking for.
But are the important decisions made by the president in Iran, or what about the religious rulers, the ruling cleric, the supreme leader Khamenei? Does he have more control over the future, really, than whoever wins today?
Iran has a unique political structure in which the president is only one vote when it comes to national security issues. And this National Security Council is headed by the supreme leader, and he ultimately makes big decisions such as should there be rapprochement with the United States. But the president does set the tone, and this is what would make the big difference in terms of style, atmospherics, language, and whether you have ideologues in office around you or whether you have professional diplomats, technocrats, specialists. This is the difference between the two camps.
Another interesting statistic that we noticed, a third of Iran's 46 million voters are under the age of 30. Talk about the youth vote and the turnout. What does that mean for the future of the country?
Well, in the last election in 2005, vast numbers of youth and reformers opted not to vote because they felt that there wasn't a real choice. This time, the young particularly got out, participated in the campaigns, were leading advocates of change. And I think there's an undercurrent in Iran, which is reflected in the tension on the streets today, looking for something different. And this is what is likely to play out if Ahmadinejad is declared the winner. The regime has tried to clamp down repeatedly on student protests, but this election campaign, which became quite raucous, allowed the youth to get out on the streets. And there were times that the street campaigns turned into quasi-discos.
Robin Wright, always fascinating to talk with you. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.